The pill bottle felt like ice in my trembling hands. I stood in Vivian Ashcroft's marble bathroom, the woman whose life I'd just saved 48 hours ago, staring at the severance check she'd left on the counter. $20,000. 10 years of my life, reduced to a number that wouldn't even cover my daughter's surgery. Consider this generous, Elena. Her voice echoed in my mind. Most assistants who steal get nothing. I hadn't stolen anything, but she needed someone to blame for her own mistakes, and I was convenient, disposable. The pills in my hand were supposed to be hers, the heart medication I'd risked everything to get when her attack struck at the gala. Instead, here I was, wondering if the world would be better off without another broken single mother who couldn't save her child. That's when I heard the bathroom door open. Before we continue this story, hit that subscribe button if you love stories about redemption, betrayal, and the price of dignity. And drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. I love hearing from you all around the world. Now, let's go back to where this nightmare began. 3 months earlier. Elena, where is my coffee? Do you expect me to dehydrate? I rushed into Vivian Ashcroft's penthouse office, balancing a tray with her specific order, half-calf almond milk latte, exactly 142 degrees, with a dusting of cinnamon she'd inevitably complain about. I'm sorry, Miss Ashcroft, the barista I don't pay you to give me excuses. She didn't look up from her MacBook, diamonds glittering on her fingers, each ring worth more than my annual salary. I pay you to anticipate my needs before I have them. It's not complicated, even for someone of your background. Someone of my background. Code for single mother from Queens, no college degree, no trust fund, no safety net. I set the coffee down carefully. Of course, it won't happen again. See that it doesn't. She finally glanced at me, her ice blue eyes scanning my thrift store blouse with barely concealed disgust. And, Elena, tomorrow's charity gala. I need you there, but for God's sake, find something appropriate to wear. You represent me, and I can't have people thinking I employ... Well, she didn't finish. She never had to. That night, I sat in my daughter's hospital room, listening to Maya's labored breathing. 8 years old, and her heart was failing. The transplant list was long. The medical bills were longer. Mama, why are you crying? Maya's small voice cut through my thoughts. I'm not, baby, just tired. Is it because of the mean lady you work for? I wiped my eyes quickly. Miss Ashcroft isn't mean. She has a lot of responsibility. Maya's monitor beeped steadily. You're too nice, Mama, even to people who don't deserve it. If only she knew how right she was.
The Metropolitan Museum Gala was a sea of wealth I could never touch. I stood against the wall in a borrowed dress, too tight in some places, too loose in others, watching Vivian work the room like a predator among prey. She was magnificent, I had to admit, 52 years old and more commanding than women half her age. Her pharmaceutical empire had been built on her late husband's foundation, and she'd tripled it since his death. People whispered she was ruthless. They whispered she'd driven her own daughter away with impossible standards. They weren't wrong. Elena. She appeared beside me suddenly, champagne in hand. Senator Morrison's wife just commented on the centerpieces. I told the event coordinator those roses were too pedestrian. Fix it. Miss Ashcroft, the gala's already started. Then I suggest you work quickly. Her smile was sharp. Unless you'd rather explain to HR why you can't handle simple tasks. I swallowed the humiliation and turned toward the coordinator station. That's when I saw Vivian's hand go to her chest. It was subtle, just a brief pressure, a slight grimace. Anyone else would have missed it. But I'd watched my mother die of a heart attack when I was 16. I knew that look. Miss Ashcroft? I moved back toward her. Are you... I'm fine. She waved me off, but I saw the sweat beading on her upper lip. Just do your job, Elena. She walked toward the main hall, but her gait was off. I followed at a distance, worry overriding fear. Then she collapsed. The room erupted in chaos. People screamed, backed away, pulled out phones to record rather than help. Vivian Ashcroft, the Iron Queen of pharmaceuticals, sprawled on the marble floor, gasping. I ran. "Someone call 911!" I dropped beside her, loosening her necklace, a $40,000 Cartier piece that was strangling her. "Miss Ashcroft, can you hear me?" Her eyes found mine, wide with terror, real human terror. "Can't breathe." "You're having a heart attack. Your medication, where is it?" "Purse, left it." Of course, her purse was in her private car, 3 blocks away in VIP parking. The ambulance would take 10 minutes minimum in Manhattan traffic. I looked around at the crowd of billionaires, not one of them moving to help, just watching, always watching, never acting. "I'll be right back." I squeezed her hand. "Stay with me." I ran faster than I'd ever run, my borrowed heels clicking against pavement, past security, past confused valets, to the black Mercedes where I'd seen her driver earlier. I pounded on the window. "Miss Ashcroft's medication! Open the car!" The driver fumbled with keys. Every second felt like an hour. Finally, I grabbed her purse, found the nitroglycerin, and sprinted back. The crowd had grown. EMTs were arriving as I pushed through, dropped beside her, placed the pill under her tongue. "You're okay," I whispered, holding her hand. "I've got you." Her fingers gripped mine so tight I thought they'd break.
Vivian Ashcroft returned to work exactly 1 week later. I don't know what I expected. Gratitude? Acknowledgement? At minimum, eye contact. Instead, she called me into her office at 8 a.m. sharp. "Close the door, Elena." My heart hammered. Maybe this was it. The thank you, the recognition that I'd saved her life. "There's been a discrepancy in the acquisition accounts." Her voice was cold, professional. $40,000 missing from the Morrison pharmaceutical deal. The only people with access to those files were myself, my CFO, and you. The floor dropped out from under me. "What? Miss Ashcroft, I would never—" "The digital trail leads to your login credentials." She slid a folder across her desk. "Multiple access points during hours you were supposedly off duty. Someone must have used my login. I swear I didn't touch those accounts." "Elena." She looked at me finally, and her eyes were empty. "I want to believe you. I really do. But the board is demanding accountability. Your daughter's medical bills are substantial. The timeline matches your increased desperation." My blood turned to ice. "You're using Maya against me?" "I'm stating facts." She leaned back in her chair, the chair I'd called the ambulance from, where I'd held her hand and promised she'd survive. "I have 2 choices: involve the authorities or handle this quietly. I'm choosing mercy." Mercy? The word tasted like poison. "I'm offering you a severance package, $20,000 and a non-disclosure agreement. You resign, we part ways quietly, and I don't press charges." "But I didn't do anything." Her expression hardened. "Then we'll let the police determine that. I'm sure the investigation will only take a few months. I wonder how your daughter's treatment will proceed while you're dealing with legal fees." The threat hung in the air like a blade. "I saved your life," I whispered. "And I'm grateful," her tone suggested otherwise. "But gratitude doesn't excuse theft. Sign the papers, Elena. Take the money. Consider yourself lucky." Lucky. I thought about Maya, about the bills, about the transplant list we were barely clinging to. $20,000 wouldn't save her, but legal fees would definitely kill our chances. "Who really took the money?" I asked quietly. Something flickered in her eyes. "That's not your concern anymore." That's when I understood. She knew who'd taken it. She was protecting someone else, someone more valuable than the assistant who'd saved her life. I signed the papers with shaking hands. Which brings us back to the bathroom. I'd gone to Vivian's penthouse one last time to collect my things, to say a goodbye she didn't deserve.
and I'd found her medication, the pills I'd saved her with, sitting on the counter beside my severance check. The irony was too perfect. "Elena!" I spun around. Vivian stood in the doorway in a silk robe, her face makeup-free for the first time I'd ever seen. She looked older, human. "What are you doing here?" she asked, but her voice lacked its usual steel. "Getting my things." I set the pill bottle down. "I didn't realize you'd be home." She saw the bottle, saw my red eyes, saw the check crumpled in my other hand. "Are you—" She stepped closer. "Are you okay?" The question was absurd. I laughed. Actually laughed. "Am I okay? My daughter needs a heart transplant. I just lost the only job I've had in a decade because you blamed me for theft I didn't commit. And you're asking if I'm okay? Elena, it was your son, wasn't it? James, your golden boy who can't hold a job, who you keep bailing out. He took the money and you blamed me because you couldn't bear to see him fail again." Her silence was confirmation enough. "Get out of my house," she said quietly. "Gladly." I moved toward the door, but her next words stopped me. "You don't understand what it's like," her voice cracked, "to build something from nothing, to have everyone waiting for you to fail, to have a son who hates you because you loved your work more than— I couldn't let him go to prison. He's all I have left." I turned back. She was crying, actual tears streaming down her face. "So you threw me away instead," I said. "Someone of my background, disposable." "I'll make this right." She wiped her eyes. 50,000, 100. Name your price." "You think this is about money?" "Everything is about money." "No," I said softly. "Everything is about who you become when you have it. And you, Vivian Ashcroft, became exactly what you feared people thought you were. Empty." I left her standing there and didn't look back. 3 days later, my phone rang at 2 a.m. Unknown number. "Hello?" "Elena Martinez?" A man's voice, professional. "This is Dr. Sheffield from New York Presbyterian. We have a heart for your daughter." I couldn't breathe. "What? But we're number 47 on the list." "An anonymous donor specifically requested you be moved up. Very unusual, but everything's been verified. We need you here within the hour." The surgery took 14 hours. I prayed to every god I'd ever heard of. When Maya opened her eyes in recovery, her smile broke me into pieces. "Mama, I feel different. Good different." "You have a new heart, baby, a strong one." "Who gave it to me?" I didn't know. The paperwork said anonymous, but I had suspicions. Those suspicions were confirmed when I returned home to find an envelope under my door. Inside was a letter handwritten on Vivian's personal stationery. "Elena, you were right about everything. About me, about James, about what I'd become. After you left, I looked at myself in the mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. I turned James in. He's facing charges, but he's finally getting the help he needs. My company is launching a fund for families who can't afford critical medical care, named after your daughter. The heart donation came from me, not literally, obviously, but I sold my East Hampton estate and used every connection I had to move Maya up the list. It still wasn't enough to save her on its own, but sometimes the universe provides when we finally deserve it. You saved my life that night at the gala, but more than that, you showed me what actual strength looks like. It's not power or money or control. It's love, sacrifice, dignity in the face of cruelty. I'm sorry I couldn't be better when you needed me to be. I hope someday you can forgive me, though I don't deserve it. The severance check was insulting. The real one, for $500,000, is attached. It's not payment, it's an apology. Use it for Maya's recovery, for your future, for whatever brings you peace. You were the best assistant I ever had. More than that, you were the only person in 10 years who treated me like a human being, even when I didn't act like one. With respect and regret, Vivian. Attached was a check that would change our lives,
And attached to that was a newspaper clipping from that morning. Pharmaceutical CEO steps down to focus on family and philanthropy. 6 months later, I started nursing school. Maya grew stronger every day, her new heart beating steady and sure. I never saw Vivian Ashcroft again, but I heard things. She'd moved to Vermont, started working with a nonprofit for cardiac patients. Her son was in rehab, actually doing the work this time. She'd sold most of her jewelry, her cars, her penthouses. People said she'd lost her mind, given up everything for nothing. But I knew better. She'd found something worth more than power. She'd found the person she was supposed to be before the world taught her to be cruel. Sometimes I think about that night in her bathroom, about how close I came to giving up, about how one moment of raw honesty can change 2 lives forever. Vivian Ashcroft was a terrible boss, a ruthless businesswoman, a woman who hurt everyone who got close to her. But in the end, she was also the reason my daughter got to live. And I was the reason she remembered she was human. We saved each other, just not in the way either of us expected. Character isn't about never making mistakes. It's about what you do after you realize you've made them. Vivian Ashcroft didn't change her character when I saved her life. She changed it when I showed her who she'd become. And maybe that's worth more than any amount of gratitude. If this story touched you, leave a comment below telling me about a time someone surprised you with kindness. And subscribe for more stories that remind us we're all more complicated than we seem.